Greetings and welcome to Flanigan's Ecologic. I am your host, Ted Flanigan, and today I'm really delighted to have Drew Arentowicz on the podcast. He's a good friend, a good family friend, and he had this great idea. He's created a company, co-founded a company called 50/50 Burgers, and they make something called Both Burgers, and we're going to be talking about that. He's figured out a way of blending 50% grass-fed beef with a number of vegetables to come up with a really healthier burger alternative. Drew, it's great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Ted. Happy to be here. It's good to see you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. And I think this all came about because you and some of your buddies were just trying to figure out how do you balance between eating meat and taking care of the environment. And tell me the genesis story here.
Yeah, the origin story actually comes down to, it hit me, I don't know if you remember 2018, 2019, the Amazon forests were being razed. There was conflagrations across the Amazon, and they'd never seen anything like it before. And I couldn't believe that the rainforests were on fire. And did a little research and realized that they're burning down the rainforest for cattle farmers to raise cattle. Yeah. And it sort of led to just doing more research about beef and beef consumption in general. And when you kind of peel the onion, you realize food and ag account for almost a third of all global greenhouse gas emissions. Most people think it's cars and coal plants and everything else, but that's about a third. And then food and ag is also a third that we just ignore. Like 98% of all climate finance goes to energy, and only 2-3% goes to food and ag, but yet they're the same. It's the same amount of carbon in both sectors. And not only is it just global greenhouse gas emissions, it's also almost 75-80% of total freshwater usage. So I really realized that we've got a beef issue, and most people don't know about it.
Yeah.
And Impossible and Beyond came around to try to help us reduce our beef consumption. But our thesis was pretty simple, that the market identified the right problem, that people want to eat less meat or want to be healthier, want healthier food options.
Yeah.
But the market picked the wrong solution. Nobody asked for more processed plant. And I think consumers started to read the ingredient profiles and realize that, they don't really want to eat what they can't pronounce. And is it really more healthful? I don't know. But we really tried to come up with a simple answer, something that would lower the bar for consumer conversion. People will happily eat less meat. It's a lot easier to ask people to eat less meat than it is for them to give it up entirely. So we put things you normally put on top of a burger to make it taste better: roasted mushrooms, caramelized onions, roasted garlic, and we put it inside the burger. So make a delicious burger. It tastes great. It's more healthful. It's better for the environment. And we actually win on price too, because a pound of vegetables costs less than a pound of beef.
Really great. Really great. And you have this term flexitarian, right?
Yeah.
You're not expecting people to give up meat and go with Impossible Burgers and Beyond Burgers. Or I remember years ago there were Boca Burgers, and then we got into lentil burgers and all these, and they just fell far short of the taste of a burger. But you figured out a way of bringing the two together, the vegetables.
Yeah, the best of both worlds.
And taste. And how do they taste?
They taste great. I mean, independent studies, blind taste tests. We either match 100% beef or beat 100% beef. So we've really tried to make it easy for people to make a change, so that they don't feel like they're giving anything up. They're still getting the meat that they want. They get more nutrients, less cholesterol. It's the best of both worlds.
Hats off to you. We'll talk a lot about your distribution channels, and you're doing really great. But how did you really start out? I mean, you and a buddy, I think, were you just experimenting with the sort of grinding up things and putting them together and trying to come up with a burger in your own kitchen?
Yeah, the whole thing was sometimes the simplest answer is the best answer. And I think had we known more, we probably wouldn't have done it. And it was the naivete that allowed us to have just overconfidence that we could do something which sounded simple. But in fact, trying to get a 50/50 burger to not fall apart at scale is a lot harder than you think. So
well, the scaling is one issue, but you mentioned this binding issue. that,
Yeah. So
how
so
do you keep
most
a burger to stick together so it doesn't
to
fall
stick
apart
together.
in your pan or on your grill?
Yeah, I'm gonna need all of your listeners to sign an NDA before I disclose exactly how we do it. But
Right.
it's a very finicky process. So just for example, if you overwork the meat, it'll fall
Mhm.
apart. Depending, so there's different uh, parts of the process, and we have a pending process patent for how you do this. And because we aren't seasoned food veterans, I think
Yeah.
most Tysons of the world will come in and be like, let's just throw chemicals at it, or additives or binders or starch or whatever, and that'll solve the problem. But we ran up against the USDA when we were trying to say, hey, we got a 50-50 burger and it's 50% beef, 50% veggies. USDA was like, nah, you can't say that. We're like, well, what do you mean we can't say that? And they're like, well, you can say 50% beef, but you can't say 50% veggies. Like, that's not, we have vegetable label claim policies, and you're not allowed to say that. So we had this whole back and forth with the USDA and FSIS, trying to come up with a solution. And it was only through the appeals process, really trying to engage a friend of mine who has some exposure to the Senate Ag Committee, to through the appeals process. They made us they made an exception for our company to make a what's called a by weight vegetable label claim. So we're allowed to say 50% beef, 50% seasoned veggies, because we have a little bit of seasoning in there. And if you put anything else in it, you can't claim 50-50. So if there's any starch, any gluten, anything else that you put in there, it's no longer 50-50. So we're really trying to keep the math simple, keep it so that people understand that you're just cutting it in half, and our ingredient profile is super clean. It's probably the cleanest ingredient profile you're ever going to see I mean, besides like an apple, right? I mean, it's beef, roasted mushrooms, caramelized onions, roasted garlic, a little bit of broccoli, a little bit of cauliflower, and our seasoning, which is a tiny, tiny fraction of the entire formulation, is a little bit of salt, garlic, onion powder, and pepper. So even the seasoning is technically mostly vegetable based. So
Yeah.
just super
Yeah.
clean.
And you can throw it on the grill and it won't fall apart.
Performs just like every other burger that you got. Yeah,
And then
there's
the
yep.
ultimate taste test was your kids, right?
Yeah, so that's really the big unlock for us, are moms, parents, stealth
Yeah.
health. You know
Stealth
what
health. Yeah.
what what percentage of parents want their kids to eat less vegetables? Zero, right? 87% of US adults don't eat enough vegetables. So
Hmm.
you could, in one quarter pounder, you can get over a half a cup of veggies, in a cheeseburger. So we really feel like this is just such a no-brainer, and you can't tell the difference. And honestly, a burger is a blended product anyway. It's like a sandwich. You got buns and lettuce and tomatoes and onions and cheese and ketchup. Like, so it's easy to hide things,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
inside a burger. You don't know the difference. I mean, a lot of people put jalapenos. Like, this isn't some. I mean, it's novel. It's a new category, but we're not doing anything that radical, really. I mean, people have been mixing, beef and broccoli. People have been putting vegetables in their meat all the time. They make meat taste better. So it's
Yeah.
just more health, more vegetables, more nutrients, but you don't even know it.
All right. So you and your buddy are in the kitchen. You're whipping up these formulas or these
Yeah.
recipes. You're testing them with your friends and your kids and family.
Yeah.
And then you say, here it is. We've got something that's really good. How the heck do you take that concept? And now you're in pavilions, you're in 142 retail outlets, and this is
Yeah.
growing rapidly. You're at Disneyland, you can get your
Yeah.
burgers. How did you make that transition? Congratulations, by the way,
Yeah. Thank
on that
you. Thank
transition.
you. So yeah, it was my co-founder and I, who my co-founder happens to be an incredible chef, and I love to cook. So it was actually just a lot of fun. We were just messing around. But we tried to do things. At first it was like, let's throw sweet potato, or let's try lentils, or we excuse me, we really just we're like, oh, let's make this simple. What makes a burger taste better?
Yeah.
And we started focusing on the on the vegetables that we normally associate with making meat taste better. And finally, we got our formulation, and luckily, I had enough food exposure, in the company that I was working at before, and I knew what I didn't know,
Yeah.
and it makes it a lot easier when you know what you don't know. And so I knew I needed a professional R&D chef to help me
Mm.
take our sample to a benchtop sample that we can then take to a manufacturer and say, hey, here are the suppliers that we used, so we know that we can get. I ended up working my network and found an executive chef who's worked at Bob Burns Cheesecake Factory, done a lot of formulating for large commercial restaurant chains. And so once I got in contact with him, I said, hey, here's this crazy idea.
Mm.
Here's how we did it in the kitchen. He went and worked his network of suppliers,
Yeah.
make sure that we got we were able to get something that approximated what we did in the kitchen. Small batches were sent to him. He worked his magic in his own kitchen,
Hmm.
and then sent us his version basically, and we were tweaking, turning the dials on the ratios and so on and so forth, and we landed on the one that we liked the best. And then that step took us to manufacturers, and you got to find co-mans, and that's a whole other thing, because it's not like there's like a yellow pages for manufacturers that can make a 50-50 burger. So
Yeah.
it honestly was it was persistence, and obviously a little bit of luck, and we got lucky, and we have some great partners, and we failed the first few times. So there was a couple of times that we were like, oh, we can't do this at scale. Like, it keeps falling apart. We can't do it.
I mean, literally
And
falling apart. The
it was
burger
really,
itself
yeah,
is falling apart.
falling apart literally and
Yeah, just
figuratively. And
crumbling on the
we were
grill.
trying, yeah, we were trying to stay true to our original mission, which is, what do we want to serve our friends? What do we want to serve our family? What tastes great? What's better for you? What allows people to eat something that they're excited about eating,
Yeah.
and with no trade-offs? And I don't want to throw anything in there that I wouldn't want to feed my own child. So we end up getting lucky, it was just testing, and a couple of things happened that allowed us to, if we hadn't chosen to do it one way, in the order of things, we would have said we can't do it. So we got a little lucky in choosing the order of the process,
Yeah.
and figured out how to do it.
You
And
know,
once
I can.
yeah,
I'm sorry, cutting you off. I mean, when I think of the ingredients, I love this notion of taking the toppings and putting them in the burger. The
yeah,
caramelized onions, the
roasted
mushrooms,
mushrooms, yeah.
roasted garlic. How brilliant! Now, broccoli and cauliflower. I love broccoli and cauliflower, but that doesn't seem like something that you would think would enhance the flavor. Talk about those two, those
You
brassica
know,
family
yeah,
ingredients.
yeah. So that was also the I like the starch in the cauliflower and the broccoli. That actually helps in the
Mm.
binding process. So that's one
Oh, it
of
does.
the
Okay.
one of the tricks. There's a bunch of tricks, but that's one of a handful.
Yeah.
And I mean, for people who love to cook out there, I mean, I love mixing. I'll make a curry with broccoli, cauliflower, chicken.
Yeah.
So cauliflower and broccoli are actually, not only do I think that you include them in different meat dishes, and they enhance the flavor, they're
Mm.
also superfoods.
Yeah.
So you get a real boost of nutrition, and the flavor profiles are benign enough that, and it's 50% broccoli, even though, hey, we could try, but it's they're the ratios are small enough that
Yeah.
you still get the nutritive benefits, but it's not heavy enough that you can even tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and it was finding that balance that was really important.
Yeah. So you worked with a chef, you got your formula, you refined your formula. Then the next step is to find a manufacturer, right? Uh,
Yeah,
and I think you told me a couple of weeks ago when we were chatting that your burgers are made down in San Diego by a
yeah,
factory, a facility that
yeah.
makes all sorts of burgers for all sorts of players, right?
Walmart, Kroger. This is it's a big, they're a big operation, and they do a great job. And also we got lucky with Disneyland too, because they were already supplying burgers to Disneyland,
Oh,
so we
really?
didn't really have to go through, like a rigorous vetting process of our facility, we're already making it in the same facility that's already selling it. So it gives us, as a small company, it gave us a lot of credibility in the market to work with an established player.
Yeah, I was wondering why that established player would even give you the time of day. I mean, they have some. I
I don't
think I
know.
read they have like 20 million pounds of burger
Good
making
question.
capacity. I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
here you come with this. You're just a guy or a couple
Yeah,
guys,
like a
right?
huge pain in their ass. Yeah, no, it's actually it was an introduction kind of through our food network, and I think in business, I'm sure most people know this by now. Like it's relationships, and you're making relationships, and you're making friends. And if you're not making friends while you're doing business, then
Yeah.
doing business is going to be miserable. And we just made the relationships, and they seem to like us, and we like them, and they took a chance on us, and they've been an incredible partner, and just very blessed to have them. And you again, like it's hard work and sweat, but there's a lot of luck too. I mean, we got lucky that we were able to find these guys, and that they even took our call, and we were able to sit down with them, and we liked each other, and they were like, sure, let's try this. And
They saw the potential. I mean, they liked
yeah,
you and they saw the potential in this product, right?
yeah, yeah, they
But
did.
you're able to
And
say on your website you have no capacity constraints. You can scale up go
yeah,
like nothing
that's right.
else, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And we, no capacity constraints is a little bit of a hyperbole, but the truth is our process and how we do this. Um, any patty manufacturer has the equipment, and you would typically have the equipment that we need in order to produce the product, the 50/50 burger that we make. So it's not like we have unlimited capacity with a single manufacturer, even
Yeah.
though I'm sure they've got a lot of capacity to grow with us if need be. Um, there's the idea that if we need to continue to grow with other manufacturers, I mean, I guess until the time that we buy our own facility, there's nothing extraordinary that we do that they don't already have. So if we needed to scale up with other
Yeah.
partners, it's something that's very easy to do.
And do they do all your packaging as well?
Yeah, they do.
They do. So you
Yep.
had to come up with all the graphics and
Oh
all the
yeah.
marketing and all that
Oh
good
man,
stuff.
that's a whole other thing. And everything that you say on your package, it's wild now that I'm deep in the food business. I read like when I'm in a grocery store, I read all the packaging to
Hmm.
understand, like, oh, why were you allowed to say that? How did you say that? What's that about?
Hmm.
And what's weird is that you've got these two sides. You've got the FDA, which is basically vegetables and I think fish, um, and
Huh.
the USDA is meat, the rest of meat, and
Hmm.
they're separate, and so and they've got different protocols of what you can and can't say, and the USDA, for better or worse, are really tight with what they can say, and I think the FDA is a little bit looser with the claims that you can make, but the USDA, it keeps it real tight,
Yeah.
almost too tight. And the only reason that we were able to finally break through with our labeling, is the only company that can make a by weight vegetable label claim, is that it conflicted with two protocols. One was, if it's true and not misleading, you should be able to say it. So that's kind of an overarching theme at both the FDA and the USDA, but that crashed into the rules on the books at the USDA, which were vegetable label claims, and they only had two on the books: volumetric and percent of daily recommended vegetables per 2,000 calorie diet, which you would have had to say on the package.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that's why through the appeals process we were able to kind of push forward with
Yeah.
the 50/50 burger. But
It's crazy.
they're not used to the American government meat department wasn't ready for somebody to come in and be like, hey, we're going to put vegetables and meat together. They're like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
that's separate.
Yeah.
That's over here, not over here.
Yeah.
Um,
You threw him a
you
curveball.
threw him a curveball, yeah, but
And Drew,
we hit the ball.
you've been able to do this all, starting up a company like this with, I think I read on your website, with less than $1 million. Is that right?
That's about right, yeah.
And are you seeking investors now to scale it even further, or
We're going to
scale
need
it
to,
further?
yeah. I think what we've learned in doing this, as bootstrapped as any company could possibly do it. I mean, most companies would be out of business by now.
Yeah.
We've learned what matters, and we've learned to keep the burn down. So,
Mm.
when you're operating in a world of famine, you're actually learning a lot about how to run a tight ship. But we're already at a place where orders are going to start to, outpace cash flow on, cash on hand. So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's sort of 2026. That's going to be happening. So
So let's talk a little bit about where people can buy them. I know I looked on your website in the Southern California region. I mean, it looks like Pavilions has picked up your product, right?
yeah,
Is that
Pavilions, which is an Albertsons company, great partner. We are in Thrive Market, which is kind of an online direct to consumer Whole Foods, another great
Mhm.
company. Um, we're in a handful of restaurants here in Southern California. As you mentioned, we're in Disneyland. And yeah, just we're got a lot of inroads now with we're looking at healthcare providers, K through 12, um, businesses, corporate campuses, CNU, college universities.
Mm.
So yeah, we've got a lot cooking here in 2026.
And one of the things that I stumbled over when I was, doing a little bit of Googling around, internet searching, getting ready for this discussion was a restaurant called 50/50. Was it 50/50 Foods or 50 for
Slater's.
a
No,
Slater's, right?
it's Slater's
Okay, the
50/50. Yeah,
50/50 burger. And
yeah.
that's what? That's half bacon and half
Half
beef?
bacon, yeah, it's like the antithesis of our burger. But yeah, if you search a 50/50 burger, so our company is actually 50/50 Foods, and
Okay.
we sell the both burger. So best of both worlds, both burger.
Yeah.
But yeah, Slater's 50/50 was a restaurant chain that sold a half bacon, half beef burger.
Which must be absolutely delicious, but
I'm sure yeah, maybe too delicious, It's like
too delicious.
it's like too much sugar in your coffee.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about about the environmental benefits, which is how you started off being
Yeah.
concerned about the slash and burn in the Amazon rainforest for cattle production. But right off the bat, you have a calculator on your website, which I thought was really well done. It's really nice and simple. I mean, if you eat X number of burgers per year, whatever, here's your benefit. So
Yeah.
let's talk about greenhouse
Sure.
gases first.
Yeah, so something like 14% of total global greenhouse gas emissions are attributed to cows.
Yeah.
So, and it's only 3% of our calories. So you're talking about a massive amount of carbon that goes into producing 1 pound of beef.
Right.
But it's actually, in this day and age, unfortunately, you start talking about carbon, you're going to lose half of the country.
Sure.
The big idea that
Mm.
most people don't fully understand, and you ask people in the Southwest, that's Los Angeles, San Diego, Phoenix, Las Vegas. You ask people, hey, where's your water come from? They have nobody knows. Like, it comes out of the faucet. No, well, it comes
Yeah.
from somewhere. Where's it come from? And it turns out our water comes, and this is the existential crisis that I'm
Mm.
surprised people are running around like with their hair on fire. The existential crisis is our water comes from the Colorado River system, and Lake Powell and Lake Mead are basically the two reservoirs that supply water to 40 million people. And experts predict that those two reservoirs could hit Deadpool within a decade. And you just look at the pictures, look at a picture of Lake Mead and Lake Powell, you'll see the rungs, the lines. And as
Yeah.
soon as it goes under the hose, basically the straw, you can't just like restart it. So you're talking about losing water
Mm.
to 40 million Americans within 10 years. Like what?
Yeah,
And most
exactly.
people would probably think that, oh, well, human beings, our showers or our almonds, right?
Yeah.
But your showers, your dishwashers are only 12% of total freshwater usage. So human beings use 12%. Cows and cow food account for 50% of total
Incredible.
freshwater usage.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make a cut somewhere, you want to take a longer shower, eat one of our burgers. Like there's
Right.
no other place that you can cut. It is the biggest water use, period, across the board, is cows and cow food. So it's the and you see it now. You want to know why beef prices are as high as they've ever been. One of the biggest reasons is because of drought, and the inputs are going up. And if the inputs go up, the output goes up. So it's like this silent existential crisis that we're trying to get ahead of, and it's coming whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Now, do you market that? I mean, is that part of your marketing? I mean, or is that really just behind the scenes a little bit?
You know, human beings are funny. They
Yeah.
say it's like what they say and what they do can be two different things.
Yeah.
And I believe that people care. But I do think that there's a lot more awareness around, turning off, lowering your thermostat,
Yeah.
driving an electric car. There's not as much focus on food, and that's what we're really trying to change the conversation. It's like we're missing this massive piece of puzzle that even if we all were to drive electric cars, um, we still would have trouble hitting some of the Paris Climate Accord agreements. Like these, if you don't address food and ag, you're not going to be able to take care of our entire climate crisis.
Yeah.
And so, yes, people care, but when they go into the grocery store, do they remember? What people really care about is, does it taste good? And
Yeah.
that's
Of
why
course.
we've really focused on making it taste good. And oh,
Hmm.
and by the way, it's a little bit healthier. Oh, and by the way, it's more sustainable. Oh, we're doing good by buying this product. We want that to be kind of an ancillary benefit. The benefit is, hey, we got a delicious burger. We're selling
Yeah.
a delicious burger. And if you can do that, everything else will take care of itself. And I think that's what we've really tried to focus on. If I browbeat, my customer about trying to, hey, you're not going to have water in 10 years, like, yeah, maybe that'll work for a lot of people, but I think people are just overwhelmed with information now. So we've focused on it's food, it tastes great, and then, oh, by the way,
Oh, by the way. Yeah.
here
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
are all these
I'm
other
a wonk.
benefits.
What 1 pound of beef avoided is 100 pounds of greenhouse gas emissions avoided. But yeah, that's the browbeating side of the equation, isn't it?
And almost Yeah, and almost 2,000 gallons of water in 1 pound of beef.
Yeah. Yeah.
2,000 gallons in a 8 ounce, steak.
Yeah.
It's
That's
insane.
crazy. Yeah, it is.
It's
Let's
insane.
talk about,
And I
let's
think the
talk about,
younger generation, yeah,
yeah,
I think the
you go
younger
ahead.
generation is now paying attention a lot more than
Sure.
the older generation. I mean, we're obviously, we used to be a lot younger and we cared, and but I think
Yeah.
there's the next wave, the next generation is starting to put two and two together.
Even more conscious. So what about additional products? I think I read you're looking at hot dogs and also chicken nuggets. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's some products out there that are doing chicken nuggets, and the grand irony of all of this, which is that chicken has a lot smaller carbon and water footprint than beef.
Yeah.
We came at this with the concept that people aren't just going to give up beef. So, but it's like, hey, if you're going to eat beef, choose this product as opposed to a 100% beef product. But for other products, yes, nuggets, sausages, hot dogs,
Mm.
these are all meatballs. These are all in play. But
Yeah.
the answer to all your questions really is money. If I were Tyson, I'd be throwing a lot of money at R&D, but I'm not Tyson or JBS. So
Yeah.
we stick with what we're good at, and what we're good at right now is a 50-50 burger.
And how about organic? I think I've read that your beef is grass fed, and you're very much a proponent of regenerative agriculture. But is
Yes.
organic something that's important to you, or is that a would that be a premium product, or
Yeah, yes and no. The short answer is we're beef agnostic. If McDonald's wants to do this, we're not going to require them to do, Gap 4 humanely raised. Like there's lots of different types of beef, and
Mm,
and frankly, cutting any type of beef in half is a big
yeah,
deal.
yeah,
So our retail product, we use a very high quality beef. People, if you're reading a package in a grocery store, it matters a lot more than most people when they're at a restaurant and looking at a menu. They're not going to be like, hey, is this grass-fed organic beef? most people don't care when they go to a Fat Burger, McDonald's, Burger King, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes they do, and premium places will be like, this is a Wagyu. And it matters a little bit, but price matters more to most consumers. And frankly, any beef, we can use any beef, and it's really just a choice that we made to start with a really high quality beef in our retail package. But that was, you're always making trades, and that's an expensive beef, and that's why our product costs a little bit more. We try to stay on par with the price of the beef that we're selling. And when we're not quite at truckload scale yet, but once we get to truckload scale, we'll be able to start beating those prices, because our vegetable prices will at scale, we'll be able to get much better pricing.
Yeah.
But for a small startup, a small company, that's the hard part of being a startup, is that we're competing against companies that already are at scale.
Yeah.
And they can undercut you. And so it's not as easy for smaller companies to succeed at pricing as the big guys. But the short answer is we don't care. We're beef agnostic. We'll use any beef, but we use the best beef right now for our retail product.
Yeah. Drew, I just got to say, on a personal note, I've known you since you were a kid in college at Cornell, singing in your a cappella groups. And the last thing I think you ever would have thought you would be doing, or I would have ever imagined you'd be doing, would be the manufacturing both burgers.
Get the meat business. Yeah, you and me both.
But what a great story. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Really
I appreciate
fantastic.
that. Thank you, Ted. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, thanks for being on the podcast. For those who are curious, go to Pavilions or Vaughn's or Disneyland and order a both burger. I'm sure Drew would like to talk to anybody who would like to help as investors in the company.
Yeah.
Welcome to reach out to me, and I'll get you hooked up. But Drew, thanks again for being on the podcast, and congratulations again on what you've done.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ted. I really appreciate the invite. It's a pleasure to be here, and thanks to all your listeners. Appreciate it.
That's it. Thanks for listening to Flanigan's EcoLogic. We'll see you next time.